I have had a Starlink dish since January of 2022, and that was with their rectangular dish that they had at that time. They had had a round one prior to that. And over the time that we've had our Starlink dish, we have gained a lot of utility from it. Being able to get high-speed internet anywhere we go has been awesome. And we've increased, the utility of that device has increased over the time that we've had it. For instance, early on, you had to use it in a very fixed location and you had to tell it where you were going to be for it to work there. And then they enabled in-motion use. So at that point, I was figuring out a way to like strap it to our RV so that we could use it while we were traveling down the road. And it worked actually for that purpose at that time. You could, tell the dish to go flat mount and then it would work just fine. And then what I did is I sold the Gen 2 dish that we had, the rectangle dish, and I switched over to this, which is the Starlink mini dish. And this has even been greater utility because it's tiny. It doesn't have the mounting pole coming out the back of it, so it makes it much easier to, for instance, I mount it to the roof of our Tesla Model Y, and we used this over many thousands of miles on a road trip to the Canadian Rockies. Over this last summer, and we were able to just get high-speed internet everywhere that we went, and it was fantastic for that. And the data speeds are still awesome, like fast, even with the Starlink mini dish. One of the drawbacks to that method that I have for suction cupping the dish to the underside of the roof of our Model Y is that here in our truck we don't have a glass roof, so it can't work from underneath because this is a metal roof and the signal would be too attenuated to go up to space. So it needs to be mounted on the outside of our truck. When Parts4Star reached out to me and offered some devices for helping me mount my Starlink mini dish in a variety of ways, I took them up on their offer. So I selected a couple of devices that they have on their website. They have many other devices, including a suction cup mount for the underside of a glass roof as an example. I asked them for these 3 parts that I'll show you now. They sent all 3 parts in this one box together, and this is a device that is for mounting the Starlink dish onto the roof of a car with magnets. So these are magnets here, and there's 4 of them, and they go in the 4 corners here. And then this right here is where the Starlink dish mounts to it, the Starlink mini dish specifically. So that's what I want for the roof of our truck right there, or technically it could be on the hood or anywhere that's metal that points to the sky. And then they also sent this, which is a power cord for the Starlink dish. So the Starlink dish uses this barrel cord right there, and this has the weather stripping, rubber rings around it so that it's waterproof. And then at the other end of the cable, it has 3 methods of powering it. And those 3 methods would be the 12-volt power socket, like a cigarette lighter port. And then this is the barrel jack that is on the AC adapter of the Starlink dish that it comes with. And then here is a USB-C port, which would be nice, of course, to being able to plug this into a variety of power sources, of which I use a power bank as an example, and USB-C, whatever it might be. Now, it needs to be able to support 100 watts, but it's generally pulling continuous around 25 to 30 watts, so keep that in mind. But this is a really good length to be able to run this from inside the vehicle, power socket as an example, and then have this be mounted somewhere on the exterior of the car, and it'll be able to reach there. And then last but not least is this device right here. This is a clamp that you can physically clamp down on something that is of the right diameter to be able to fit between these jaws, which you can expand this, of course, and it gets quite wide. And then you have this tightener right here, and then these joints. So if you loosen this right here, you can see these are ball joints right here. So I can pivot that, and you could even pivot this other one, and you can mount this in all kinds of locations and get the Starlink dish pointed in the direction you want it to be pointed, despite the orientation of what you're mounting it to. And then this, of course, comes with this puck right here. So this, you can see, has a threaded hole there, and that goes on to this right there, and then this goes up into the Starlink mini dish. So I'm going to test mounting the dish to show you how well it works, and then I'll tell you what I think at the end. There's 2 little notches right here and here, and then you see there's some screws here. And these screws are Allen head screws, and they come with this Allen screwdriver, which is quite long, as you can see here. And so the idea is that you flip this around, and also, by the way, I've put the cord, the barrel jack, in to power it up before putting this on, because otherwise it'd be more difficult. So I've put on the magnets as well on the 4 corners of this device, and then it sits like this. So you can see it kind of inserts right there into the slot of the Starlink mini dish, and then you just press it down right here gently, and it kind of pops in onto those notches. There you go, popped in. And then you take this long Allen screwdriver Then you tighten these screws right here, and it puts pressure or tightens down on this this rim right here, which is putting pressure into those slots. So basically it makes it so this thing is secure and will not come out. And so now I have tightened those 2 screws in there, and this thing is pretty solid. There's a tiny bit of rattle, but trying to pull this out, it is not coming off. But now let's go test the strength of these magnets here on the corner, see how well this holds on. I have put it here on the hood just because it's easier for me to reach, but you could put it up on the roof as well, of course. And it is really securely on there. That is not going anywhere. Now, if I push hard enough, in fact, it's on there. Whew, there we go. That is really on there tight. So I'm going to leave that on there for a minute and let's take it on a test drive. Yeah, that thing is on there, very solid, stable. I'm not going freeway speeds right now, but it would definitely be able to hold on the freeway, no problem. And it is working just fine in my case to run the cable around over this way. You can see there's plenty of excess here, even though it's out on the hood. And then right here I have a splitter, my 12-volt splitter. And so right here it's powering the Starlink mini dish. No problem with the cable they supplied. This is the front of our travel trailer, which I have highlighted in many prior videos of going on camping trips in it. And it's got 2,650 watts of solar panels on the roof, etc. So this is about that Starlink mounting kit though. You can see I've got the mini split here on the front, and the top of this is metal, so these magnets are sticking to it just the same as the top of our truck, which is to say very securely. And you can see that the feet go right here to here, and I could rotate it 90 degrees and it would work fine that way as well, but this works too. And I have the cable routed down here and across that way and then around over here. And then on this side of our trailer is where a 12-volt battery used to be, and I have changed it and I've put a 240 volt outlet here that I use to charge our electric cars on a daily basis. So for an example, this is our Model Y and it's currently charging off of this cord that is literally going here and charging off the trailer right now with all of the excess solar that's being produced right now in the middle of the day. But here on the side, I have this adapter. This is connected to the 12-volt sockets over here that are now being powered from inside the trailer from the lithium-ion battery bank. I have a Level Mate Pro in here, and then I have a power switch on this and then 2 12-volt sockets. So I've now plugged the Starlink into one of these sockets, and it's working just fine to power the Starlink mini dish from in here. So this works fantastic for us. I've actually already mounted the Starlink mini dish here in the past and driven down the road and camped with it, but I just used bungee cords going over the top of it to hold it in place. And this is a much more elegant solution. To better illustrate how this locking mechanism works, you can see there's a cut right here between these 2 layers of metal, and this screw are going between them. And you can see if I move it with my finger, this flexes. So this flexes right here, this notch and that notch, they flex into the notches on the side of the Starlink dish. And then once you've tightened these screws right here, it locks these 2 together so that this stronger one cannot flex with this one anymore. And that's what keeps these securely in the slots of the Starlink mini dish, so it won't slide out of this mechanism. Now let's move on to this other mounting mechanism. It came with this round puck here that screws onto the screw mount there. And then this right here is the mount that came with the Starlink mini dish. And this is designed for mounting the dish onto poles like this. And it can handle a variety of diameters with this long screw here. And so what you do is back out that screw with an Allen wrench, which they kindly supply right here. And then this puck goes in just like that. And you can see it's got that hole there, and I've taken the tightening screw out completely just to make sure it's not blocking anything. Here on the back side of the puck that this Parts4Star included, you can see there's a hole right here, and it goes in kind of deep, so it means that you're going to need to screw in this screw deep enough to make contact here and keep it tight, but that also makes sure that this thing can't accidentally slide out because it's got this sticking into it. In any case, if you look here at the shape, you can see there's a divot here up on top, and their device has a similar divot there. So this is the way it's supposed to go, just like that. But I've been trying and trying, and it just won't quite fit. The tolerances are not working. They're overlapping, and so I can't get this to insert there. So I have a metal file here. I'm going to have to file off some of the outside of this, which is kind of a shame because this is kind of a nice looking metal here with the black coating on it. And I'm going to have to file this down to be able to fit in this, and I'll show you the end result. This was taking too long with the hand file, so I switched over to the big guns. Gotta take off more material. finally, I have ground it down enough to be able to fit. You can see this is that hole in the back, and I had to ground down pretty much all of the sides and the 2 tips on the front. And so it's more round than it was before. And just to give you an idea of how snug it is, look at the edges here. I barely ground this down just enough to get it to fit, but it's nicely firmly stuck in there. Now that I finally got it mounted in here successfully, you can see that this mounts onto the Starlink mini dish, similar to the magnet mount, but you just slide it in like that, push it in, and now it's locked in. It does rattle a little bit. Let's test this out on mounting it a couple of different places. Going back to the front of the truck, here's an example of where I'm basically clamping it here onto this bar on the front of my cattle guard here on the front of the truck. And then this thing can articulate up, and then you can get it basically so that it's perfectly straight to the sky right here on the front of the truck. If you wanted to, this would be a perfectly acceptable mounting option. When we're camping and at standstill, here's another place we can mount it on this, grab handle on the side of our RV, which pretty much all RVs have something like this. And because this can articulate in all kinds of angles, you can come off this angle right here and then go straight up and have the dish flat to the sky, or maybe tilt it slightly away from the trailer or something like that. I've been wanting to mount my Starlink mini dish here on the back of my trailer on this ladder for a long time, and now I finally have this mount to be able to do just that. And better yet, it doesn't block the solar panels, but you could totally leave this here while you're traveling, and this would be the permanent mount for this Starlink mini dish. And that pretty much sums up the clamp mount, the using of the cord, and this magnetic mount right here. And in summary, I would say these are fantastic devices, with the exception of that puck that I had to grind down to get it to fit into the Starlink mount. I don't know if there is manufacturing inconsistencies there with the Starlink mount, or if it has changed in design or something. Obviously, by removing material, I was able to get it to work, and you could potentially do that as well. But this is a note for Parts4Star. You should probably check that size and make sure it fits appropriately. But I loved the ability to mount the Starlink mini dish in a large variety of locations, because it's awesome to take with us on our adventures, and we don't always have the trailer with us, so I don't want to only mount it on the trailer. Sometimes we're just in the truck, and sometimes we're in one of our Teslas, and we mostly take our Model Y on road trips right now, so I want to be able to mount it on the Model Y, and the suction cups work great for that, and Parts4Star has a suction cup mount for just that purpose. So I highly recommend getting a Starlink Mini if you don't already, and take it on your adventures. If you have any further questions, or if I have any follow-up anecdotes or experiences, I will put that as a pinned comment below, and feel free to post in the comments below any questions or comments you have. And with that, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.